The reason I'm recording is because we'd like to record the webinar session. So we'd like to have them posted on the OSA website and try to create a little bit of a history of these webinars, because I want to do one a month. So if we could, I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Just real fast. Could folk maybe tell us just quickly where you're coaching, if you'd like, or if you want to? There's a lot of people sitting here in dark rooms or sitting here, but Nathan, since you're the photograph I see, just give us a quickie: boys, girls, age group, and where.
Sure. I've coached both boys and girls. My daughter's kind of aged out, but coach basically through U8 through U13, and right now I'm with my son's team and U12 down in Tuscarawas County, Ohio, which is the Dover, New Philadelphia area, just south of Canton, Ohio.
Beautiful. Keith, are you willing to tell us who you're coaching, where you're from? You can always pass. Give him a chance. Oh, he's coming off. Thanks, Keith.
All right, sorry about that. Hi, I put it in the chat, but yeah, hi. And I like this is like the second time I've done this, so I'll figure out how to get my face on there, I guess, if you guys really want to see me.
Look at the bottom left-hand corner. There's an image of a start video with a red line.
Yeah, there we go.
Yes. You made it.
All right. You guys are, hey, it's your fault. Yeah, I coach U14 boys in Springfield, Ohio.
Okay.
I'm an assistant. I've been doing this 4 years, something like that, somewhere in that area. So
beautiful. All right, Jeff. Either, if you like. There he is. How you doing, Jeff? Who are you coaching?
I coach U10 girls, Ritztown U10 girls. Excellent. And a U7 boys team.
You're over with Megan.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Excellent. So I got 2 Jeffs. We got a Jeff Cavalli and a Jeff Rohde.
Hey, Tom, Jeff Rohde, boys U13, Defiance, Ohio, over Northwest Ohio. Been doing it about 4 years, 3.5, 4 years.
Super. The Barb is actually my other computer, so I can see what's going on. We got the 2 PhD guys on here. This is, I'm going to have to be on my toes here. Steve and Adrian.
Hey, I'm Adrian Turner. I work with the Bowling Green Soccer Club here in Northwest Ohio.
Adrian and I just had a little project for talking about US soccer education, so it's been fun. Nice to see you, Adrian. and the other doc on the group, Stephen. There he is.
Yeah, hello, Stephen Harvey, and Englishman, but work at Ohio University and coach in Pickerington for Barcelona United. I coach a U11 girls team, my daughter's team. There you go.
And a fun team. Eugene, are you on? I'm going to see you tomorrow.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Eugene Harman, Columbus, Ohio. Coach U11 boys, Columbus Ashgrove.
And hopefully we get a dry day tomorrow. Otherwise, it'll be slide tackling and diving headers. Cole or Tony, last couple.
Hey guys, this is Cole. Coach U13 boys out of Zanesville, Ohio, Zanesville Arsenal. I'm an assistant coach, getting ready to start over at the U8 age group with my other son here soon.
U8, excellent. Okay.
Tony
Banachek. Oh, Tony, how you doing, Tony?
Doing well, thank you. Tony Banachek, Olentangy United, up in the Lewis Center, Powell area, just north of Columbus, Ohio, and currently doing U9 and U10 girls.
Excellent. All right, so part of the selfish reason for asking the other was just to get some sense is because of this info and what it might mean. So this is the first of the the coaches webinar series. So congratulations, you are in the inaugural class. And we are recording just to keep it some record of what was said and what happened tonight. So if you want to stay off camera, that's okay. For those of you who don't mean, I think I'm probably more familiar with the folk in the north and the south. My background's curriculum and instruction, and I've changed titles from the technical director in the High North to the director of membership growth and development for OSA. I've worked for US Soccer since 1993, and with Stephen Harvey, we work on the Ohio University, although he's full-time, I think, and I just come on part-time to do courses. And then there's some of my other background in coaching there. So I spent more time with U8s in the last 10 years than anything else, but it's nice to have the context of what happens above that too. So that's me, just so we know. And Ohio Soccer Association, this is our first fall as a married couple. And our vision here is to unite the state over time. And I think the mission is what these webinar series relate to, which is to try and inspire and grow soccer by helping people help themselves. So for those of you who work in communities or clubs that you feel we can help, that is part of my job, and I'm more than happy to do that. In fact, that's an exciting part of the job because it's not sitting in front of the computer. So the mission in brief is really this challenge. Does anybody know why the 70% is up there? Can I pick on one of the Jeffs? Take a wild guess, Jeff. What's that 70% relate to?
Percentage that leave the sport or stop playing.
Good. So we lose basically 3/4 of our kids by the time they become teenagers, and we're never going to get to the point where we only lose 30%. But the question is, how well can we do? And that's sort of relating to the theme for this first webinar, which is, why is that so bad? I took that photograph a number of years ago, and it always struck me as indicative of the problem we've got, is that sometimes we just don't entertain kids enough for them to get in the game. The good thing is at least he's in a game, but he's sitting there bored out of his head in the goal. And so part of our challenge is, how do we keep kids in the game? And the second part is, how do we actually get them to improve? And that's been my story. So the 3 webinars that we're going to hold this fall, those are the 3 dates and the 3 headlines, and they sort of follow on from tonight's introduction. And then when we get into 2022, we'll cover some other ground and likely involve some guests to give a broader perspective on this process. So just a quickie in the chat room. I actually added this, Jeff, while you were sitting there waiting to come in. Philosophically, are you A or B? When you go and you think about your job as a coach, are you more mindset that you start from technique to tactics, or are you more mindset that you start with a big picture and at some point work towards detail? So if you could just stick an A or a B in the chat room, just to get a starting point of where we're at here. That's a fence sit, Goran. Okay. So there's our challenge, is just where we start. And if it's technique to tactics, what that would say normally is that we want to develop a lot of techniques before we introduce tactics. And on the B side, it starts with the game, and at some point we move along towards more details. So we'll see how that changes over time. What we got, sorry. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is, I want you to answer this. And if you could take a screenshot, those of you who know how to take a screenshot, if you would just simply copy that screen. And I'm hoping at least one of you who is in a group can have it. So I'm going to just go 5 minutes, make it quick. all you have to do is what the kids value most in their soccer experience. And if those are your 11 options, just try to rank the top 3 and we'll see how we do. Right. So this is going to be a quick version into chats, breakout rooms, and I will put everybody randomly. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So let's just go in twos. So I'll make 5 rooms and we'll just decide. Okay, so 5 minutes. If you are done, just simply come back and we get it going that way. Okay. Again, if you screenshot that, that's your discussion. Just rank those, see if you can get the top 3. Right. We'll see in no more than 5 minutes.
Hey, Tom, I needed to get a screenshot of that. Again, Eugene and I didn't get it.
There you go. Or you can just come back here and stay in the main room. It's just the 2 of us.
Okay.
Want me to put you back in?
Yeah, I'm with Eugene, so I told him I'd be right back.
Can you rejoin?
I don't know how to. It invited me last time.
I'm going to put you into room 4.
I was in 1 before.
Yeah, I'm going to put you into 4 and then move you back to 1.
Okay. I'm back here.
You just got booted. I should
Yeah.
just pull Eugene, and I'm going to pull Eugene back to us. I hope. There he is. Eugene, you back with us? You might be doing
Yes.
your own list, Nathan.
All right. So we got that up on the screen, Eugene, if you can see it.
Yes.
We're just picking the top 3 that they're interested in.
Okay. I would say number 1 is the first one.
Yeah, I agree.
Number 2, maybe we can say practices. What do you think?
I think the team friendships, kind of positive team dynamics, positive coaching, those kind of all kind of flow together. But the kids, at least in the age groups I have, they seem to do better when they're all getting along. So maybe positive team dynamics.
Okay.
So that will be 3.
That was a great conversation right there, and you said very little, but you said a lot. I'm not being sarcastic. I honestly thought that was the logic, and that made sense. All right, we're going to close all the rooms. Bring everybody back. Oh, I'm going to close in a minute. All right. Megan. Megan, how are you?
Oh, doing good. How are you?
Good. Nice to see you.
Good. Yes. Sorry, just running late.
We have another Rootstown coach. Not quite sure which one, but yeah, we have someone else from Rootstown, which is great.
Ooh, thanks.
You'll notice when they all come back, they're in the chat room. They'll be back in a minute. Actually, they'll be back in 6 seconds.
Okay. Great. Thanks.
Here they come. All right. Who wants to offer their conversation? I should probably go with Nathan, because Nathan and Eugene ended up back with me. So
Yeah.
Go ahead, Nathan. What were the top 3 for your group?
Top 3 we had was number 1 was games. And then number 2 was practices. And then number 3 was positive team dynamics.
Okay. Other groups. Jeff, Tony.
Yeah, so I think it differs between whether you have boys or girls. Girls that I coach very much about friendships and socializing. And I also think it depends on the age group as well. But yeah, definitely games, friendships. And for boys, I think a lot of it's learning new things and, being able to show progress that they've made.
Okay. One more. Steven's going for, you want to just pile up? Steve's going for games, learning and improving, and friendships, group 3. All right. So in the Fun Maps research, there's actually no distant difference between the boys and the girls, no difference between the competitive and less competitive kids, which was a really interesting distinction that really kids are kids. And you'll probably find a lot of this, even at the professional level, their first order of business is to try to create a positive culture. And it feeds into this notion of what we're trying to do in coaching and why we lose so many players. The first thing is significant. Kids who try hard, particularly the younger ones, that's to them, they're playing great. Older kids, the notion of competing to the best of their ability becomes their own benchmark for how am I doing? And it's as good as I can give you. It may not be as good as you want, but it's as good as I can give you. And if I try hard, there's merit to that. So the next two, the positive team dynamics and the positive coaching, those are significant areas that I'm going to try to touch on as we move through the winter. Just how do we make that happen? And how do we change or create positive cultures within clubs and teams? So the close second were those, and those were in the list that were offered. Certainly learning and improving is important, and the games and practices are fun, the team friendships. Nobody, thankfully, of the group went to the fact that doing a nice warm-up and getting good gear is important to those kids in the bigger scheme of things. This was research that was really interesting, because I think it turned on its head the why are we doing what we're doing. A lot of the time we go immediately to games and to practices in coaching education without realizing that those are the benefits of having a good culture within the team and a good relationship with the coach. We can then help players improve and learn and make the games enjoyable and the practices beneficial. And clearly these things all tie in together. So it's a fascinating study. So a chat room response. Let's see how we do with this one. We're getting into games again. In the men's soccer, and I'm going to make an assumption that the women's is the same, but I'm not going to make that without probably seeing some research. So this I know to be fact. What is the connection between Brazil, Argentina, and France? Give us the best guess you've got. Goran has a vote for street soccer. That's one part of the answer, Goran. And there's a second part that relates directly to that. Neymar. Good point, Stephen. Could he play in Argentina? He probably wouldn't though. They're playing France. So one part of the answer is that they have street soccer cultures. The second one might be a little bit more abstract, but let's see if I'll give it another couple of seconds to see if anybody can pull this together. When you think about the major leagues in the world and who plays in them, all right, so they have soccer cultures for sure. They still have a very active street soccer, and if you look at Brazil, Argentina, they've clearly got a futsal culture. I don't know about France, but they clearly have a lot of early experiences that are just play. The top player thing, Goran, is the answer. Those three countries export more professionals than anybody else in the world. And it's probably no accident that their foundation in the game is free play. And that's, I think, where I'm trying to take a little bit of this conversation is we've got three countries that clearly do a lot of play, and they produce more professionals than anybody else. And what can we learn about their upbringing that helps us retain players and perhaps make players a little bit better? So here's the next little chat room response. What's the rules of street soccer? Just throw ideas in the chat room. Those of you who grew up playing sandlot or stickball or backyard sports, but clearly street soccer here is the main focus. But these free play environments all have the same characteristics. What are the rules? Because people say, no, there's no rules. That there are pretty significant rules that are consistent across countries. So what do you think? You play to win, or you win to play? You play to win. We'll go. Yes. There's always competition. Did you mean that win to play or play to win, Goran?
No, you win, you stay.
Okay. So it wasn't a typo. It was basically that there's value in winning. If you've got too many players for the space, you
Right.
win, you stay on. Okay.
Yep.
Good.
So you
That's
find a shortcut, you find a way to stay on.
Yep. I'm going to add that actually, because that's good. You play to win and win to play. I like that. Out of bounds and how to score win. Okay. Fair teams. Yes. No hands. Yes. Actually, there were goalkeeper rules, Nathan. It's interesting. All right. Let's just keep moving us on. So the rule of street soccer was pretty simple. If you showed up with the ball, you were a captain. If you were the biggest kid, you were probably a captain. If you were the oldest kid, you were a captain. And typically the biggest kid was picked in the first 2 rounds. Why? Because when there was a dispute about whether it was a foul or a goal, the biggest kid tended to settle it. So that was always important when you had the biggest kid or the best fighter on your team. So Stephen said there's balanced teams because nobody likes blowouts. Everything in the free play world was about good competitive games. And if the games got unbalanced, you just pick new teams. Typically, it was always between 2 goals, which always allowed for attacking and defending. And the most important moment in sport, which is the transition moment when the ball turns over. Playing numbers really didn't matter. The rules were always adjusted to make sense of the facility that you were playing in. Was always a way to win. And we'll add Gorins when, in some cases, if there were too many players, you won, you stay on. Defending was sort of optional, which meant there was always a counter-attack opportunity. I remember games at school where when the bell rang, there was probably 20 kids on each team and you didn't have scrimmage vests because you always knew who was with you. Sometimes you had goalkeepers and sometimes you didn't. And that was typically the way you got in the game was you started off in goal if there were too many kids. And probably best of all, there were no adults. And why is that important? Well, if you look at those and what those mean for us in the organized soccer world, Vygotsky was a Russian who talked about this idea that there's a socialization that goes on in the world where older people help younger people do things they can't do on their own. And so this idea of the bigger kids being in charge, think about what we do in youth sport. We put all the 5-year-olds together, the 6-year-olds together, the 7-year-olds together, and you wonder why they can't play. It's because they don't have older role models. So that's a challenge for us. Let's see if there's anything else. The 2 goals, the tactical context. We have a lot of kids who really don't quite understand the game because they just don't spend enough time playing soccer between 2 goals. So they don't quite get that. The idea of flexible rules, well, we can always adjust the rules to try to promote one type of learning over another. That's just something we should do as coaches. Everybody played when it comes to practice, when it comes to games. Should everybody play to keep them involved? For sure. And the bit at the bottom is probably the biggest sin that we have as coaches is we don't let players make decisions. So there's a lot of lessons from street soccer that if we can incorporate into our own practices, we'll probably find we have happier kids. So if you have not been asked, coach, can we scrimmage? You're probably the world's best coach. I think at all times we get hit with that and kids grabbing onto our shirts asking us, can we scrimmage? I grew up in the PE model, and the PE model in those days was you did a lot of drills and then you played. And you got 5 minutes to play at the end. And the challenge I think we have is how do we evolve away from a drill culture to be more of a free play culture? And so the US soccer play, practice, play coaching model is really about trying to get more soccer into practice. And it's a challenge for us. I go around a lot of practices and you see a lot of kids standing doing meaningless things. And it's no surprise that they don't play particularly well. All right, so the sort of theme of the night is what makes soccer soccer. So if you take a look at that game and you flew over a game in the Barbie helicopter and you look down out of the Barbie helicopter, why would we know soccer is soccer? So again, just stick your answers in the chat room, and some of them just came up before. Small goals, big goals, but always goals. Remember the rush goalkeeper, Stephen? Yeah. Nearest to the goal was the goalie, right? It's a ball movement, no hands. Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting conversation. People playing handball to get folk used to spacing, but as soon as the ball goes on the ground, the reasons why it doesn't work become apparent. Lots of ball movement, unpredictable, 2 goals. Defending, attacking. All right. So realistically, soccer's 11 aside. We modify it for sure because it makes sense for younger kids to modify it. But there's typically 2 teams that are organized. There's 1 ball, 2 goals. You've got the moments in the game where you're attacking, defending, and transitioning. It is a rectangular playing area, which is important because it gives direction and it forces the game to play up and down. It's got a direction to it. There are boundary lines so that people know when it's out of bounds. We've got a set of common rules. We've got officials and we know how long we're playing. So that is, as a guide, what makes soccer soccer. If we could create more of that, life would be really quite good. Right. So here's the thought. Does anybody want to take a stab at why those 6 diagrams are as they are? And I'm going to pick on the folk. I'm not sure we'll come up with the right answer. And I know some people will. So I'm going to maybe ask Nathan or Tony or Brian. Are you the Brian I know? We played together once upon a time, Brian?
I don't think so.
Okay. It was Concordia. There was a Brian McElhenney at Concordia. Anyway, you want to have a bash at why those six boxes are up there? If you have no idea, you can always pass.
I think I'm gonna have to pass.
Okay. Jeff? Megan, Cole, anybody?
Phases of the game?
The phases of the game would come in the bottom 2. So that's, what do you mean by that for those who don't know what phases of the game are?
I wonder if they're representing offense, defense, and then transitioning back and forth between the 2.
Good. How many of those activities do we actually get that? Because it's not just 1 or 2. How many activities can we get transition moments and both teams having possession? All right, let's go with 4. So the top right and then the bottom 3, we can always get both teams in possession and then there's the transition moment. Adrian, you want to chip in and help folk out here? Or are you just lit up because, what is this describing? This is your wheelhouse.
Well, we've got going from if you go along the top, we're going from a less complex environment into a more complex one, technically, and you're adding elements in. So you're going from unopposed technical, if this is what you're asking, I'm not sure.
Exactly. I knew you'd nail it. Keep going.
What you're asking, so you've got unopposed technical drills here, top left. Then you're introducing some opposition, but not in a game context. You've got non-directional games being used as sort of your 3rd stage in there, adding direction in, and then you're beginning to add in the sort of complicating this tactically in terms of positional elements to basically your final realistic sort of game context.
So this represents what we would see in soccer. And by the way, Adrian teaches at BG and he's into the sport pedagogy piece, and Stephen, as we said, is into the sport pedagogy piece at Ohio U. So you got 2 experts in the field helping me out here as needed. So thanks, Adrian. Yeah, it's literally, if we went to soccer practice, we would see some version of these activities And when I asked the first, do you go from technique to tactics, or do you go typically from the big picture to the details? If you went from technique to tactics, you would probably be more in the first and the second box. If you were more detail, big picture to detail, you're probably getting on the bottom line with perhaps some of the top right as well. So it really just becomes more game-like as we get closer and closer to games between two goals. And I'm going to come back to that in a second. So I put up here choices and consequences. When we use these activities in training, we get more or less of the game. And that's the challenges we have, is what does our training look like? What do the players want? And how do we help them understand? One of the questions that I'm going to come back to later in another fun maps piece, if you ask the players, would they rather come to practice and play games that help them understand how the game works? Or would they rather come and play free play? Or would they rather come and do drills? Or would they rather come and do fitness? Over 90% of them say we want to play some kind of game, and the majority was help us understand how the game works. So the kids literally tell us it's nice to go in it to play, but we need to understand more about how the game works, which would then push us on to the bottom line. Can we do more things that help kids understand what does it mean for me to play in this position versus that position? And somebody, I think Jeff, was it Tony, mentioned phases of play. When we're attacking, we're defending, we're playing in the front part of the field, the back part of the field. Those are all phases of play. So just think about your own situation and what your practices look like and what that impact is on players, and then perhaps what they look like after 10 years worth of when they get into high school, if they survive that long. All right, so in the chat box, I've got a 2 versus 2 game. And you can see there's the striped shirts versus the red shirts. They've got a goal each, but no goalkeeper. And what I'd like you to think about is, if I just let kids play that, and I had no idea what I was doing, but I just let kids play 2 versus 2 to 2 goals, what would I get out of it? What are the player actions? What are the tactical challenges that a game like that presents? Even just simply putting the game out there, letting 4 players play. The player actions are what the players do. Right, what they literally do on the field. The tactical challenges are more of what the game presents. So in a chat room, just have a bash at describing what you might be exposing the players to with a steady diet of just 2 versus 2. So for those of you who've put dribbling, see if you can think about other ways that we dribble. There's actually 3 types of dribbling. So if you can define what dribbling can be. Hey, Stephen, I'll push you this way. If you're getting into simple combinations, if you can think about other combinations that are not just give and go and overlaps, but how simple a combination is, because we do get combination play and it's got to be simple because there's only 2 players, but people actually don't think about combination play in its simplest form. Maintain a possession. Yep, well done. Now we're getting there. Good, Gordon. All right. There's no more. I'm going to move it forward. So a simple 2 versus 2 game. Here's what you get in that game. If I get the ball in my half, they've scored a goal, it's gone out for a goal kick. We have to figure out how we're going to get the ball from our half of the field into their half of the field to create a chance to score a goal. Clearly, it's different when we're playing out in front of our own goal versus playing in front of the opponent's goal because of how much space is available. So we've got these moments where we're playing either in front of our goal or we're playing in front of their goal. And there's the moments where we can score a goal, we can create a chance and we can score a goal. And then the other part of the game is the most important moment in all invasion sports is when the ball turns over. And if we go back to the idea of these drills, there's no transition moment in typical technical drills. And it's the most important part of the game is when the ball turns over, what do we do? How do we react to the game? So if we think about transition to defending, it's a natural part of losing the ball. The game is always full of, we have the ball, we lose it, and we defend and we get it back. Those are the four moments that are inherent in all of these games. So if we look at now the defending side, assuming I can get my piece to move. Right. So we got a choice. We can go and defend closer to their goal, or we can defend in our half because we haven't been able to stop them. We're always looking for those moments where we could try to get the ball back again. And then the natural response to winning the ball is trying to score a goal, trying to counterattack. So those are constant. You can play 1 versus 1. You can play 11 versus 11. You can play 2 little 5-year-olds, or you can play in the World Cup final. Those don't change about soccer. Those are constants about the game. They never change. Goran's asking how long the field is. I'm going to go about 24 yards by about 16, 17, depends on the level of play, but about 24 by 16, 18 maybe, based on the level of play. It's a good question, Goran. And they probably play for about a minute, minute and a half before they get tired. So that's another consideration, right? So let's look at the player actions. I wish I could see more of your hands because I'd ask you to stick your hands up, but I would hazard a guess that most of you have players who get the ball and then look to figure out what to do with it. The good players look before they get the ball so they can play faster, plus they can protect the ball because they see where the defenders are coming from. These are all things that we could coach or at least highlight in this game. So if I receive the ball, can I receive it just to keep possession? Can I receive it and pass it because I've actually seen what's around me? The 3 types of dribbling are dribbling for possession, which means I've got a defender and I have to turn away from the opponent's goal. If I've got a player in front of me, can I run past them? And if I've got space in front of me, can I run at the space? The younger the kids, all of those create challenges. So you've got kicking to pass, kicking to shoot. The idea of spreading out away from my teammate to create space for, as Stephen mentioned, this idea of elementary combination play, which the game of soccer is basically just combination play. If I pass to Tony and I pass to his feet, we've combined. If Tony passes into the space for me to run onto the ball, that's another form of combination. So the wall pass, the give and go, the overlap pieces are also part of that. But the idea of supporting around the ball or away from the ball is inherent in a 2 versus 2 game. I go back to my U8s. I was out there on Sunday and had an adult playing with the U8s. So surprise, surprise, the game spreads out more because we can pass the ball and do things that they can't on their own, but it's a fabulous way to get them to open up and just simply move in with the game. Unmarking from a defender if they've got more experienced players. How do I get away? To at the right time and in the right place. So just a simple game of 2 versus 2, you can see how complicated it is, but how much opportunity it gives us to help players understand more about the game. So defending player actions, you can read those. The idea of tackling, do we kick the ball away or do we tackle to get possession? Because the objective of defending is to win the ball to score a goal. It's not to kick the ball away. So ask yourself, how many of your players just simply go defend the ball and kick it out and we all clap? We're really just working hard to work hard again, as opposed to work hard to score a goal. So what we do in defending, philosophically, if we want to try to keep this in the context of the game, we don't defend to defend, we defend so we can attack. And that's important for fun. Okay. So another quick chat room. I got time to do this. I'm going to send you back in there and I want you to answer that question if you could. Why are so many high school players bordering on illiteracy? We have a lot of kids who come into high school programs and you look at this list and a lot of kids can't connect the dots. So before I move on, I'm going to put you back in chat rooms again, 5 minutes, and or break rooms. and I'll just keep you in the same room because I think they're all set up. So 5 minutes. If you want to take a screenshot of that question, but all yours. Okay, good luck. Megan, you didn't have a room, right? I'm gonna
Right.
put,
Yeah.
put,
And
I'm
I
gonna
was
put
gonna
you
say,
in
I'm
with
not
Stephen.
really
Huh?
not really a soccer coach, is the president.
Yeah, but you're the
I'm just, like,
president, so you
organize
get
it all.
you get to make a lot of important decisions. So I'm gonna put you in
Right.
with I'm gonna put you in with one of our PhD.
Okay. Okay.
Actually, all right, I'm gonna
Thanks.
put you in with you. You can just listen. They're good.
Okay. Thank
Crystal, Crystal, I'm gonna put you in with group 1. And then
Okay. Okay, I guess that's over.
You're back, Megan. Was it
Yep, I'm
painful?
back.
Was
No,
it
that was
painful?
that was great. Thank
All
you.
right, good. So what'd you come up with?
This is Tony with the Untitled United.
Yeah, go on, Tony.
I was just going to say, my initial thought is that I think a lot of coaches in America think of soccer like they would football or basketball, where they think it's a coach-driven sport. And so they're constantly giving direction to kids during games. And by the time they get to high school, kids don't know how to think for themselves because they're always being joysticked in the past.
Definitely part of the conversation. Agreed. So we'll put that on the check. Other thoughts?
Yeah, we thought it was a lot due to some poor coaching at the youth level that was primarily the result of the coaches just having a knowledge of proper player development.
Okay, definitely part of it too, right? And that's a difficult one to get into the real details on because it's such a vast conversation, but for sure. For those of you who, and I'll go to Megan actually, because Megan runs, she's the president of Rootstown. What percentage of your coaches, Megan, would be volunteers?
Oh,
no, hold on. I'm sorry. That's the wrong question. Volunteers with no
Megan.
soccer background.
Oh, I would say at the travel level, so our U9s up to U14s, those coaches have played before, and they all have their license, but all of our younger kids, our U5s, 7s, and 9s are all mostly parents that haven't played.
And
or know much.
Yep. And so they tend to get their latest drills, right? They tend to be that way inclined as to go set up some kind of nice drill that they can run because it looks organized.
Yeah, we did talk about the Mojo app, so I did tell them about that if they want to get some other drills. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, they set up what looks like soccer. We try to train them best we can, but yeah.
It's a thankless and impossible task in many ways, and even if you're hands-on, so don't feel bad. The hope is that we got more players who've played and who are coming back to coach. So that does help. Any other things that anybody discussed? Because I'm sort of running out of time. I don't want to keep this going too long. Go. Any other big picture things that came up? No. Right. I don't have a list per se, but I'm going to just answer it this way. And this sort of gets us to the next discussion. I'm not going to put you in rooms because we don't have time. If you take the 2 versus 2 game and you simply take it into a 5v5 game, and I asked the question at the bottom, what changes? If you take the list in that box, everything is the same. So all of the pieces that we get from 2v2, we get in 5v5. And that was the list that was part of the 2v2 game. What changes is when we go to 5v5, now we start to see this evolving. Where do I play on the field? What's my job on the team? When do I play? When do I not play? If there's 2 of us in the back on the red team and one of the players goes forward, can the other one go forward too? That's the idea of line balance. So we're learning concepts about the game that it doesn't matter whether it goes from 5v5 to 11v11, the concepts tend to get repeated. And so there's an awful lot that goes into a 5 versus 5 game that really doesn't change much when we go into even larger sided games. The only piece that we get that's different is the idea of wide play. You add wingers to a lineup, and now you get play on the sides. You get relationships between the 2 players who are playing on each side of the field. But ultimately, the principles, the ideas about the game, we can teach 90% of the game in 5v5. And you can see how complicated the game is just by looking at that idea of, if you want to call it a curriculum or ideas we can help players with. When we go to 5v5, it changes but it doesn't change drastically. And we've really gotten to the point where this is soccer. We can teach soccer in almost its entirety in a 5v5 game. And so it's a little bit of a challenge when I ask this question, why are they illiterate? A lot of it comes down to the choices we make as coaches and whether we spend enough time helping players understand the game as a complement to some of the other activities that we could do. We just don't spend enough time as a soccer community helping players understand how they play, because in many ways our coaching mentality tends to be a little bit too drill-like rather than how do I coach within games. So that first question I asked you was a bit of a loaded question, but anyway. So what I wanted, we're not going to get to this, but some of it has come up, that the main barriers are clearly just in some cases the coaching education program that I've actually been involved with is not focused enough on helping players understand how the game works and how to take pieces of the game and make sense of it. But that's for another day. Ultimately, what we're trying to do in the soccer world is make coaches better so that the environment gets better, so that the players get better. And it's not an easy fix. It takes a lot of learning. It takes motivation to learn on the part of the coaches, but that's our starting point is how can we get coaches to understand that there's more to the game than just how many drills can I run, and how can I start teaching players how to experience the game for themselves, which was an important point brought up before. So that's it. There's an hour gone, and just the last little piece is a reminder. What we're going to do next time is literally take this idea of a rectangle, and I'm going to ask for what have you struggled teaching, and then just literally create activities inside a rectangle that teach pretty much anything you want to go play with as a coach. If you've got something you've struggled with, I'm going to give examples of how we can put it inside a rectangle and make it a fun game, because I've got games for everything. So that's next one on November 22nd. And then finally, this is a shameless plug. We do coaching education. And if you are interested, we are more than happy to come and provide United Soccer coaches or US Soccer courses for you. US Soccer has a roadshow clinic, which is a free 1 to 2 hour clinic, which is a $25 value, and it comes with $25 towards the 4 hour courses for those who want to move on. So that's a shameless plug for the coaching education side. Gordon is involved in that. He'd be happy to come and do courses for you, as with Adrian and Stephen at some point. So that's that. And I've gone over by how long? Not bad, 4 minutes, but we started 5 minutes late. So I've gone 59 minutes instead of 60. So I'm going to stop there. Are there any questions before we go? Any thoughts on that information? I'm going to try to keep these to an hour just so they're short and sweet, but any thoughts as you leave? If there's none, I will stay as long as anybody wants to stand and chat, but I appreciate everybody coming on for the first webinar, and hopefully we'll see you November 22nd, and feel free to bring friends or send them links. But I'll stay as long as anybody wants to stay. Eugene, I'll see you tomorrow night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Hey, Tom, can I ask you a question while I just jump in here while I got you?
Absolutely.
So out of curiosity, with this, with the street soccer concept, I know one of our board members tried to start something a couple of years ago, but as I was just concerned about liability. He was saying we should have like a field set up and invite kids to come out Wednesday nights, but not have like adults there. And I just didn't know how other places run that, or if that's something people do just to encourage free play with different ages, different players. Is that something that other clubs do?
Yeah, I think when you said no adults there, that's probably a little scarier than you want to get to, because you want to know what happens. And in this day and age,
right,
the idea of not having adults there is probably, the kids do it on their own, that's great. But if something you're organizing, you need people there just to be there, clearly.
Okay. Not to coach the kids, but just a adult present.
So let me tell you about Sunday.
Okay.
I did the U8 piece on Sunday, and I sent out word earlier. How many moms and dads want to come and play? And we literally set up teams and we play. And in some cases, the adult was a neutral on the field, and in other cases, the adult was a teammate. And I've run this in the past where the adults were the goalkeepers. If that's what it takes to get adults around the fields, that can be a really fun environment as well, because you've got multiple ages. You clearly don't want a 5-year-old with a 15-year-old, but you can section off the kids into ages where there's 2-3 years difference, and then let the kids go. And that can be a lot of fun. And that's the spirit of the free play environment that we just seem to lose because everybody overcoaches.
So just by allowing a soccer environment with some adults there, just to organize the teams maybe, but then let the kids free play. So it is sort of,
Crystal just chipped in. I did street soccer in my practices. I stole it from a soccer camp my daughter attended. I think the girls had a positive experience and learned from it. Yeah, Crystal, the other, and I'll come back, Megan. The piece that's important about this is we have to get hooked before we're going to do some work for homework on our own, right? And there's a guitar sitting back here behind the screen. Unless I was motivated to pick that guitar up, I wasn't going to practice. So I'm now 61. I've been playing the guitar since I was 10. And I still practice and I still learn new songs, but it's a motivation that comes from me, not from somebody telling me you need to go play guitar. So one of the benefits of street soccer is you used to leave the kids alone to make their own decisions, which would include at some point forming their own teams, Megan. And maybe they play and they decide we're going to play to 10 goals or 15 goals or 10 minutes or whatever, and then they jig up the teams and redo them again. But the fact that the kids get to be in charge, which can happen pretty quickly, that's the real key to it, is just creating an environment where they just come and play. And if they want to defend, fine. If they want to shoot from their own goal line, fine. Nobody's going to tell them, no, you can't do that, because that's just the way they wanted to act at that point. So it's an interesting thought. It's more about how do we just create environments where there's more about kids doing what kids want to do, and a lot less about us creating adult imposed environments where we tell them what to do, when to do it, and tell them when they're wrong more often than not.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
I have a question kind of along the same lines with the free play. Is there a certain age or certain time that if we repeatedly see the same bad habits happening that we try to make corrections or comments during free play like that?
Give me an example of a bad habit you don't like.
Constantly just toe balling the ball and then running after it.
This is where free play, and it's a fair point, Tony. Free play is a supplemental or a complementary part of soccer training. So for example, if you've got a kid, and this is one of those things in a rectangle, if you said to me, how do I get a kid to stop toe balling the thing because that's all the kid does?
Mm-hmm.
My reaction to that would be, how many players can that kid play with where he or she's got time and space? And then I simply put a rule on, you have to take at least 2 touches. So now there has to be a first touch. If the kid doesn't take a first touch, it's a foul. So I literally, now there's another way to do it, which is more positive. Every time you take 2 touches, you get a bonus point for your team. Goals are worth 3. Tony, I know you toe the ball every place you want to go. Tony, if you take an extra touch, I'm going to give you another point for your team. The game conceptually is between 2 goals, but inside that, I'm trying to manipulate the rules or the conditions or the enthusiasm so that the kid who toe balls it doesn't just toe ball it. Now, the other side of that is there are coaches who tell kids don't kick the ball with your toe. The toe is one of 6 surfaces that in the World Cup final, if you got the ball over the line and under the bar and between the posts and you score 1 goal, you still win 1-0 because they all count, right?
Yeah.
But coaches will, they don't realize the 6 surfaces of the foot that we can use times 2 feet, that's 12 surfaces. Our kids typically use 1, the inside of their dominant foot. So expanding their whole range of technique, and we can do that. I did that on Sunday morning with the U8s. There was kids did things on Sunday morning they'd never done before. And it wasn't a you must, it was simply a point system that encouraged kids to try something they'd never done. And they were 6 and 7 year olds and 1 5-year-old. So the answer to our problems is not to throw all the kids out and say, hey, go play for an hour, I'll see you, and then you go home, and that happens 3 times a week. But clearly there's got to be more time where they get to play free with some global expectation that they might go home and play with their friends. Because part of why we've got kids who are pretty average to poor in high school, it's the only time they ever play soccer is when they go to soccer practice. And what do? A lot of drills. So they've got no idea what they're doing. So, I mean, it's not an easy one size fits all solution to this, but clearly playing more soccer is better than doing drills, particularly if the people organizing the drills don't have any real sense of why they're doing them.
Yeah.
If you've got someone with a little bit of experience, you know, Adrian has got a career, and Stephen have got a career out of the games-based approach to coaching. So what they because of their experiences, they'll say, well, you want to do this? All right, let's find a way to take that piece out, put it in an activity that can get some repetition with it, on the expectation that with enough experience over time, habits will be developed so that the players will be improved. But that takes a bit of skill. And for people who are volunteering, that's why I asked Megan, if you've got mom and dads who are volunteering who don't know much about the game, well, at that point, just put 2 goals out or 4 goals out, or, and this is where the rectangle thing comes in, just stick a number of games out, let the kids play and have fun and compete. That is going to be better than any drill they can come up with.
Yeah. Good stuff. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for coming, Tony. Crystal, you get any?
It was really.
Huh?
I was going to say thank you.
As long as I keep you interested in thinking, that's good.
Yeah, I love it. I was listening because it was just, I was trying to absorb as much of it as I could.
Crystal, what's your situation in coaching? Who are you working with, and how long you've been doing this? And are you coming in as a player or a volunteer? I'm assuming mom, but
I am a mom, but I played soccer for the Claremont County Soccer Association as I was growing up, and then played soccer in high school. And I felt like I probably technically didn't know anything when I made it to high school. So I definitely identified with that statement in your webinar here.
That's a sad commentary.
I felt like I had to learn. Please.
No, I'm saying that's a sad commentary, but it's so true. There are very few high schools where more than 5, 6 of the kids actually can connect dots with some consistency.
But I've been coaching my daughter's team for the last 3 seasons. I started last fall, we did spring, and then we just did fall again. And I tried to absorb, I signed her up for some camps over the summertime and tried to absorb and steal a lot of what I saw there to use with the kids, because I don't feel like I'm even though I played, I don't feel like I'm good enough coaching. So I just try to look up stuff and steal stuff from other people. But I love everything you've been talking about. I feel like I can use and I last fall when we finished off, I tried to have a couple of more practices because I didn't want the girls to totally lose their connection with each other and playing. So I kind of think it would be kind of fun maybe if I could set up a street soccer where they could meet and maybe pick their own teams and play against each other a couple nights, like at least a night a week would be nice.
How old are the girls?
And then our last practice, they're 7 and 8. Some of them are just turning 8, but a lot of them are 7.
Be ready for a slow, it'll take you 1 to 2 sessions to get to the point where they will become independent of you, but it will take a little bit of, it'll take a little bit more spoon feeding to get them to the point where they'll walk on and play, because people don't ask them to do that. So it's a bit alien for them, but it will take a couple of weeks, maybe 3, and then don't be surprised if they pick up the ball after that. But it won't come naturally because a lot of the time they've never been asked to go sort out teams and play. If you have an older son or boy or girl, who can manage it, it'll get going quicker.
Okay. Well,
And
I
if you
did
want to
set
play
up,
and get,
I
if you want to play and get some exercise, that's actually good too. You just give them responsibilities, but go have a run around, because I thought it was fun on Sunday.
Oh, our very last practice, I went ahead and invited the parents and older siblings to come scrimmage the girls. And I think they got a lot out of that. They barely asked for water breaks. Usually they want a water break every 2 seconds, but when they scrimmage the parents and their older siblings, they didn't even think about water. They were just playing and having fun.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. That is pretty cool.
All
I'm
right.
gonna-
Well, thank you. I'll definitely look for your next session.
Okay. Yeah, I've got the info. I'll be happy. So thanks for coming, Crystal.
Thanks.
Nice seeing you. Bye-bye. Oh. Keith, Tony, anything else? I'm not sure if Adrian and Stephen are just sitting on to say hi or be nice to you. Anything
That
else
was
from
my
you,
only
Keith?
question.
Go ahead, Tony.
No, I was just here listening to what people were asking and just trying to glean some more wisdom. That's all. But yeah, thank you for your time. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you guys made the first show.
Yes, sir. Yep, me too. See you in November.
Okay, cheers. I'll send notes out.
Great.
See you guys.
Good night.
Bye-bye.